Introducing Gary Dean.
Yeah. All right, this is a quick and easy way to make ground foam yourself. Ground foam by nature is exactly what it says it is. It's ground up foam. And you can make this by getting a hold of some good quality foam. You can use it out of a seat cushion or something you find on the side of the road or whatever you want. These actually were ones that came out of boxes that brought windshields into the shop where I work.
A quick question, Gary. We're not talking about hard foam. This is soft, open
Yes,
cell.
this is cushion foam, like seat foam, upholstery foam, exactly. I use a simple razor blade knife for mine, and I just cut it into strips. And then once I get my strips cut like this, then I take it and I square them off and make little cubes out of them. Preferably not cutting your hand. The smaller they are, the faster they'll grind up. Just cut them individually or cut them as a group, whatever you want to do. And it's really easy to do. Just to find some small foam. And you can use bigger pieces, but if you use bigger pieces, you got to cut it in more directions. These were simple size to use because they were about the size thickness I wanted to have. And when I'm doing it, I always like to try to blend it in as with good quality stuff. If it's got stains or something in it, I try not to use that, but a lot of times you can cut around those. And once you have these all cut, small enough pieces, you put them in a blender. Now, I wouldn't recommend using your wife's good blender. She might not like that. I got mine at a Goodwill store, and I've also got them from a marketplace on Facebook from people that want to sell them. So once you have your foam into the blender, and you quit sticking to your finger, you can add water. You don't want to fill it all the way up, but you want to get a good little bit of water in the system to help it blend. And I try to fill it maybe about half full of water. Again, this is an old cheap blender, so I'm not worried about it. I know some people I've seen do this. They actually do it with the color instead of the water. I prefer to color mine after I've made the foam. Takes a few minutes for it to blend down. Really simple to do. Once that's been done, I'll take my foam out. Take something to pour the water into. Get the most of the water off of it you can. You may lose a little bit of your foam in there, but you won't lose that much. It doesn't matter.
Could you use like a fine strainer or something like that as you're pouring off the water?
You could use a strainer and try to retain all of it you got instead of losing some.
Yep.
Correct. One good way to get the moisture off your foam is paper towels. That's you're going to use paper towels in this. That's probably one of your biggest expenses besides the dye to dye it. And I lay it out on foam. the foam out on the, bring it out in here, so I'm leaving the water in here. Put it out here on the tray. Very simple. All this didn't cost me hardly anything to make, because you know, you go to a upholstery shop or someplace like that, or a glass company that gets windshields in. Those came out of boxes that windshields came in.
Fabric store.
Fabric store, yeah. If you want to buy new, you go to upholstery shops and they a lot of times they'll give you their cutoffs that they use. I've gone and gotten a whole big garbage bag full. I've got a garbage bag at home full of it. But I've been getting these at work recently, and they're already the thickness I want to start with, so I just use them right now because it's easier to do. I don't have to cut it so many times. And again, cut this, you can pour this out and take care of that. All right, once you got it out like this and you get it dry somewhat, you know, you want to get some of the moisture out of it, because you want it to absorb the new moisture. So I always just press it down into a paper towel. And then we can take some hot water and put it in a container. With that hot water in there, the rinse dye that I'm using today, there's other things you can use. I've used paint. There's other brands of dyes that you can use. I'm wanting to make some fall colors for a friend of mine. So to do that, I'm going to mix some colors together. I'm going to start with a little bit of yellow.
You just freehand it, you don't.
Yeah, I don't measure. I just, you know, it just depends on the look I want. If it's not the way I want it. I don't want a bright yellow, canary yellow. So I'm going to put just a little bit of this wine color in just to tone it down just a hair. Then I take a paint stir brush, stir it up real good. And then here's some that I've already ground up ahead of time. You just put it in down into the dye.
And that's fairly dry, right?
Yeah, but it still has moisture in it. This was done this week. I mean, I can still wring water out of it. I just don't want it to be soaking wet because I want it to absorb the moisture.
With the dye.
With the dye, exactly. So do that. And once again, stir it around, put it in there real good. Now, a lot of times, you know, when I'm doing a big batch, I'll do it in a 5-gallon bucket. If I'm doing like greens and stuff for the train lat where I'm going to use a ton of it, I can do that. And I see that little bit of red I put in there made it way too red. I put too much in there. So with that being said, I'm going to change this one and make it more red by putting a little red in it. And this will be my red one, because I don't want a bright red. But this will give me some red in there to kind of tone it down just a little bit, or take it more toward a red than it was more like an orange a second ago, which I'm going to do an orange in a minute. But this is, you know, you don't want a bright, even though the colors on trees are bright, it's not something you want to make a ton of it that color. And a lot of times, like I say, I just leave this soak overnight so it soaks in really good to the dye. But you don't have to. I mean, it can, you know, it works pretty fast. Can I have another cup of water? And this one I'm going to do the yellow again. I'm just going to do yellow only. Once you've got it into the clump form and you do this, this will make what would be referred to as coarse ground foam. You know, it's going to be in chunks. If you want to do, or not clumped, I forget the name for it. It's not the thick, it's not the fine, but it's
the clusters.
Well, to do that, where you make the clusters the clump, I lay it out on a tray like this when I've done it, and then spray it with 60% Elmer's glue and 40% water. And with that sprayed on it, it makes it all stick together, and then you can break off pieces that you want to do together like that. And then if you want to make it real fine, you take this version here and put it in a magic blender and blend it, and that will make your fine ground foam. Like that. So here's a couple of colors y'all can look at. And like I said, there's very little expense. These bottle of dyes at Walmart are $4. I mean, you know, unless you're doing a whole lot, you're not going to need a lot of it.
Play with it.
Right.
But you need like a bullet to make it real fine.
That's the bullet makes it real fine. Again, here's what the finished product looks like after it's done. The top is open, so.
Yeah.
I use that for shrubs and bushes and trees.
And bears,
And it works really well. I think it gives a realistic look, and it gives you the ability to make various colors and not have everything the same color. So Duke, I'll take one more, please.
I've seen people use Spanish moss for deadfall underneath on the ground after they've done the ground foam. But the commercial ground foam.
Right.
But they take this Spanish moss that's dry, they sprinkle it around.
I can't tell the difference between that and what comes out of those $12.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I say. You can
Yeah.
save yourself a lot of money with this, because this isn't very expensive to do.
You just gotta drink a lot of coffee to see that today, right?
Yeah, the coffee, yes. The Folgers containers.
Huh? I've got this one just with straight yellow this time, because the last time I think adding the colors to it wasn't really adequate for what I wanted. It's kind of a trial and error thing. You know, I don't have a set formula each time, because honestly, I don't want it to end up exactly the same every time. Because out in Mother Nature's earth,
Yep.
things aren't exactly the same every time.
No such thing as a bad tree.
No, it gives you a blend of things that you can do. So this here is, I'm going to blend this in. Again, I just stir it all up into the can, and
You give it a couple of days to air dry.
you know, I usually set it outside if it's not real windy and let it sit in the sun with paper towels on cookie trays. I bought all these cookie trays at the Goodwill, you know, $1 each. So once you get this stuff, it's pretty much, you know, usable forever. Except the blenders, when I was getting ready for this, I pulled the first, I had 3 blenders, and I pulled the first one out that I found the base and the top for in the box, and turned it on, and about at 10 minutes into it, it started smoking. I was like, okay, that's not the one we're gonna use today.
It's had enough.
Yeah, it had enough. So, but I bought all these used. You know, if you really want to do a good job, take your wife's good one and buy her a new one. That way you know what you're getting. But I just went with pot luck, what I got, you know, at the stores. So it works really well. We're going to let it sit here for a few minutes, and then we're going to get it out of here and take a look at what it looks like.
So you need to keep it in there for several minutes.
Yeah, I wouldn't pull it right out. Like I said, I usually leave mine set overnight when I'm doing it, but it soaks in pretty fast, especially when this is ground up good.
You normally wear gloves so it doesn't hurt for the
I do when I'm getting it out. I don't do it during this process, but I do when I get down to the last process, I do. All right, this one I'm going to do. I'm going to try to make more of an orange on this one. So I'm going to mix red and the yellow together. Probably a little bit more yellow than red. It's a trial and error thing. Like I said, you'll learn, you know, as you make some, what you like and what you don't like.
Looks like you need a pretty good amount of dye.
You do. Like I said, but these are only $4 each. You can buy bigger containers too. They have bigger ones.
in the craft section.
What about reusing that liquid after you strain?
I am. I'll
Okay.
save it. I'll use it again. Yeah, you don't use it all. I mean, there's still dye left in there, so. It looks like I need a little bit more foam in this one.
Dye is dead.
Yep, not quite got to go as orange as I wanted to, so I probably put too much red in it, but it'd still be a nice variation of the red because it won't be the same like the other. The other had the wine in it.
Maple's all kinds of colors.
Yep.
Yellow is what you'd be making aspens with.
You making what?
For yellow, you making the aspens like they have in Colorado.
Yep, if you're doing a western, exactly. This is for a friend of mine that's wanting some fall colors on his Army dioramas that he makes. Brian that owns Scale Reproductions.
But yeah, brown bones.
Yeah, I'm making this for him, so. And then when I bring it out of here, this is when I do put the gloves on. And I wring it out all the way. Put it on the paper towels to dry. Again, like I said, I'll save this and I'll put more in this again and do it again because, you know, it hasn't used all the coloring in it.
But you won't add any more water to it?
No, I won't. No, this was plenty. Yeah, it's, if you add more water, you gotta add more dye because you're gonna dilute your dye.
So I know you've been using hot water in there. How do you reheat? Or do you-
When it's, after it's made, I think the heating is mainly made to make it, get the color dissolved better.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I don't know that for a fact, but that's what I assume because the ones that I put in later are always cold and they seem to work just as well.
Okay.
So I know on the Ritz dye it says 2. And there's products that you can use that besides Ritz dye, there's other dyes too. And I've actually even used latex paint that blends with water, so I've tinted it with some. If I want it a little bit darker, I went to a Sherwin-Williams, and where they have the thing to make the different paint colors, they have these bottles of tint that they use, and I bought a bottle of the black tint. And I can use just a few drops of that, and that will make a big difference in the color quick, because it's a real strong paint.
Concentrate.
Yeah, yeah, it is. So that's what I do. You see, there's the yellowish color. The red one, the first red one I did.
You know, color mixing might be a good clinic too. 'Cause
Yeah, you can always do that. Yeah.
I don't know how many people actually know how to do that. I know it was a fog to me before I did it the first time. And
So if you're gonna make the really fine ground foam, do you color it first, then
Yes,
grind it
and
up?
dry it. Let it dry.
Dry it and then grind it.
And then grind it, yes. And I use the magic bullet for that. And that has a fine blade inside of it that will chop it up into little, like you saw there. So it's
Coffee grinder would?
Huh?
Like a cheap coffee?
You know, I don't know. I've never tried that because I don't drink coffee, so I've not had the experience, but
Somebody does. He does it on a containers.
my girlfriend does. Yep, she sure does. And I'm one of these pack rats. I say so.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yep, there seems like there's always a use for something on the train layout. So,
that was one of the biggest things when I started doing that model railroading. You can't look at the littlest piece of junk and not say, hey, I could use that for.
yeah,
Yeah, it's an affliction.
yeah.
I used to walk through Lowe's,
Yeah.
just looking at plastic bits that they got for like gutters and stuff like that. So,
And this is kind of a darker red.
It's Scarlet Maple.
And it ended up a little bit lighter because of this is the one I mixed the yellow in. But once you get it out on these, you know, this will typically dry in 24 roughly hours. It depends on how you get it spread out.
Spider coming at you.
There he is.
Get him. It's under your foot. Under your foot on the ground, right there.
You ain't hurt nobody.
Only because it's around the glues.
And I do have sifters that I can pour this through, like Darcy was saying, to make sure that I get all of it out of the dye. But what sits in there will be fine. It'll dry up eventually in there, you know, when I pull it out the next group. So, but anyway, this is what we do for making it, and inexpensively.
Yeah.
Because you can make a ton of this stuff for just about nothing. Like I say, the dye is really the only cost after you buy your products. But once it's in, that's
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would be, if you, aspens.
it would be a good color for aspen.
But it's, right now, you do the smokies and you do
looks
it
like
on fire.
chorizo.
It's got two fires going, it's smoky.
Chorizo.
Yeah.
Whole.
Well, that's pretty vivid color. I'm surprised it took that quick.
Well, like I said, I usually leave it overnight. It kind of thickens it in better. But this is, you know, for a variety of colors.
Yeah.
You know, you're not stuck with just what Woodland Scenics makes. You can make any color you want by tinting it a little bit more, or tinting it a little less. You know, you can make greens and yellows and oranges and whatever color you want to make. So,
Browns.
20 of this, 30 of this, and then you mix it up and it's the horse.
yeah, it's you know, this is a simple way to do it. You know, a few original purchases you'll need. You'll need the blender, the regular blender that you have to get. You need some cookie trays. Definitely need paper towels. That's something you're going to lose a lot of, and a magic blender to make the fine.
And gloves.
So and gloves. I use, you know, a glove on my hand when I'm in there wringing it out. So when I'm doing a big batch, I'll do it in a 5-gallon bucket and fill it about half full.
Sure.
You know, I don't fill it all the way up, but it turns out really well. But I've used this to make, like I said, trees and bushes and everything on my layouts. And I can't tell the difference in this and Woodland Scenics when it's down. So.
Other than the cost.
Yeah, other than the cost, exactly. You know, I just made all this for under $12, and I've got several different colors and more that I can remake again. I can redo this. Each one of these is good to put more in when you do it, so it lasts quite a while. I've still got some greens and stuff at home, but I thought I'd try some new colors just so I could, you know, for my friend Brian over at Scale Reproduction.
Yeah, I do as electrical, or did.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions about anything?
Great.
That's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. I mean, this is about the easiest thing you can ever do. It is. Well, thank you all for.
I'll ask questions.
Okay.
So you mentioned go to an upholstery shop and try and get ends.
Cut off.
So for those in the Louisville area, can you suggest a couple places that they could go?
Where I got mine at was at Derby City Upholstery.
Okay.
Was down off Algonquin Parkway
Yeah.
in Louisville,
All right.
and I was able to get cutoffs from them. A friend of mine picked some up at another place. They bought a big, huge garbage bag of them for $15. So if anybody wants any in the club or anything, I've got plenty I can give out.
That means for somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, for anybody wanting to make any, that'd be your best thing to do with the, you know, is just find a local upholstery shop and go and ask them if they have any cutoffs that you could have for making some stuff that you're doing with the craft. Most people are nice enough to give it to you. But like I said, you know, at work we get these all the time, and you know, they come in these big long links like this in the container, and this will make a ton of foam. So if anybody needs any here, that I'll be glad to give you any amount you want.
So glass shops would be another potential source.
Auto glass.
Auto
Yeah.
glass.
Some place like Safe Flight, or the company I work for, Auto Glass Plus, is a division of our company.
All right.
And so those work really well, and like I said, they're already about the thickness you want, so it works really well because you just have to score them each way. I always try to make little cubes out of them, and then like I said, you see they blend up pretty quick. So it's not a very long time process, other than I do normally let them sit longer in the dye than we did here, but I mean, even the little bit they were here, you can see what it did. So,
You ever used or thought about using like cheap pillows from Walmart if you couldn't get this other stuff?
I haven't, but I mean, if it's a hard foam like that, I don't see why you couldn't. I mean, they're the same, you know, as what you're looking for is, I mean, people put furniture out on the street all the time to get rid of it, you know. And you take a seat cushion and unzip the cover off of it, and this is what's inside of it, but it's usually about 3 inches thick.
But you wouldn't make it before the roofers get there, because if the roofers get there, they take it to save their knees on the roof.
Exactly, yes, they do. But it's very easy to do. It's just a simple process, and like I said, it gives you more variety of what you can do with it, because I can make coarse or clumped or fine. So again, the coarse is what it comes out as. This is what we call coarse. And then once you put some glue on it, some Elmer's glue, 60 to 40 is what I use, spray it on with a sprayer, let it set overnight. It's all like one big sheet. You can pull it up, pick up the whole sheet of it. And then you just tear off whatever you want to use. And then for the fine, I take the dried and then put it in the magic blender there, and then it makes the fine. So
That's the bullet, you call it?
the bullet, yep, magic bullet. So, well, I appreciate your all's attention. And
Yeah,
hope
thank you,
everybody
Gary.
enjoys seeing it.
Yeah, Gary,
Yeah.
thanks a lot for doing that.
Did not seen that trick.
Yep, it's, like I said, very easy to do and relatively inexpensive once you make some purchases, because I could make a lot more with this than what I've made today. This is just, you know, enough to show everybody how to do it, so. Well, another thing I do too is I go down and I find creek beds. There's one that going down toward the Knob Creek gun range that has a real reddish, dark colored rocks.
Yeah.
And I go in there and I scoop up rock out of the edges of the bank, and I'll take it home, and I have a series of sifters that I put it through to get bigger ones, smaller
Screen.
ones, smaller
Bigger
ones,
screen.
smaller ones, and smaller ones. And then that way I don't have to go out and buy, you know, the rocks and stuff that you can go out and pick up on a creek bed. You know, it's easy enough to do.
Yeah, the Sumners run the Knob Creek Gun Range.
Yeah, that the one down there really has a good, rich, kind of a reddish brown,
I think it's
and it works really well.
the iron oxide or something out in there.